Hello everyone and welcome back to Brown Coat Reviews. I am here with my favorite Married with Comics co-host, my husband Scott. Now as you can tell, it is a different time of the day, so instead of wine we are working on our tea and coffee. So we will stay thoroughly caffeinated during this video. Now today we actually have a variety because we have purchases from our pull list, we have a couple eBay grabs, and then of course my live show finds from the Kracken'S Hoard. Now, we're going to start with the pull list because I think we kind of have an equal amount of his, hers, ours titles, and then we'll get into all of the goodies. So first things first, since I get to go first, we're going to start with the Department of Truth. So Department of Truth is the interesting concept, especially with today's world and with all the political divides. The idea is, what if some of the conspiracy theories, the wild, radical ones that you hear about, like there was no real, landing on the moon, what if there was a fragment of truth to all of them? And then you actually have a federal agency that is dedicated to keeping those conspiracies or those truths under wraps. And then you have the people who are trying to unearth the conspiracies versus the government entity that's trying to hide them. So it gets really twisty, really interesting. It is fascinating. The only thing I will say is, because you have so many different layers going on in the story, you do want to read it pretty consecutively. This is issue number 7. It was just released, and I am worried I'm going to have to go back and kind of reread a little bit from issues 5 and 6 just to make sure I'm keeping all the threads together.
So that's one that maybe if you did the trade paperback, it'd be easy to keep up with.
Definitely. So they just released the trade paperback. It's only $10. It's issues 1 through 5. Definitely recommend it. Especially if you're not sure you're going to get into the series, give it a try. This is the other history of the DC universe. So this is DC's attempt to give a spotlight to characters of different ethnicities. So the first 2 issues had, the first one was Black Lightning, obviously a black male superhero. Then the next one was a black superhero couple. And this is focusing in on an Asian superhero, Katana. I'm very intrigued, especially with the current sort of political turmoil right now with, Stop Asian Hate. I'm really intrigued because the writer of this series is John Ridley. And he has only, before this, done movie scripts. So his story writing is...
John Ridley.
Other. So John Ridley did... Yes.
Not enough caffeine yet.
So John Ridley was nominated, and I believe he won the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. But his writing, like I said, is very...
That was way off.
Very. His writing is very detailed, and he gives almost like a mini story, like a mini novel in these comic books. So it is definitely something that it's probably going to take me a solid chunk of time to get through, but his stories are so well developed. I'm really intrigued to see what he does with this story, and we will definitely be talking about this week.
Oh, Samsonite. That was way off.
This is actually Something is Killing the Children Volume 2. Now, I had purchased Volume 1. I missed the individual issue bandwagon, and by the time I even thought about grabbing the individual issues, they just skyrocketed in price. So I'm like, let me just get the story and to stick with that. So got Volume 1. I really liked it. It is a bit of a slow burn. So this is almost like a twist between hack slash and witches. So you have our main character who is hunting monsters, and you have sort of this entity, this monster in the woods. It is also written by James Tynion IV. Clearly, I'm a big fan of his work. For this one, I said the first 5 issues were starting to build some of her plotline. Her name is Erica Slaughter, which, listen, for a monster hunter, you can't have a better name. But this, of course, is starting to give you a little bit more development on, she goes from town to town hunting these monsters. Why her? What's the group that's sort of hiring her to go do this? And, why is it hunting children? Is this a certain type of monster? Are we going to get more monsters as the series goes on? I've been very intrigued. But this one actually went out of stock at my local LCS over at Ultimate Comics Raleigh. So when it came in stock, Ultimate Comics has a deal where you buy 3 trade paperbacks, you get the 4th one free. So I grabbed this one. And then I picked my next two, which is Velvet. So this is issue 2 and 3. Sorry, 2 and 3. If you haven't watched my video reviewing Velvet issue number 1, it's basically, let's picture if James Bond was unavailable and Moneypenny had to step out from behind the desk and save the day, but then you find out that Moneypenny all along was secretly a spy and was just as capable as James Bond. But she was relegated behind the desk for a very specific reason, and then you start kind of unpacking why.
Oh, I'm in.
And then you get some amazing action sequences.
Isn't that Brubaker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brubaker.
Ed Brubaker.
Huge fan.
Cool.
Your turn.
So, some of you may have seen in our other video, I don't honestly remember now, but these started during Women's History Month, and I, at the time, thought, well, I might grab one or two, and then I did the Laura thing and said, no, I must have them all. I'm not eating, actually, honestly, we were just discussing, I'm not sure if there are more to come or not. If there are, I'll be trying to grab those as well. But these are Women's History Month special covers of various ones. So here we have Spider-Woman. And you can see, there we go.
There you go.
The idea, or at least the concept, the visual concept that I was drawn to by it, is that we're seeing them in typical character costume. It's just a little blurb in the corner. And then we're seeing them as like women. Like, yep. The idea that I took from it is that, you don't have to be wearing spandex or leotards or a mask or horns or carrying a sword to be strong and powerful and beautiful. Here's Black Cat. Yeah. And this is Ghost Rider. This is Kushala. Love that one. So, yeah. As you can see, bring it a little closer, the detail on...
Those are the flames on her face.
It's really cool. Silk, Cindy Moon.
Which, that's Silk issue number 1, which just came out this week. Everyone's making a big to-do about that series.
Yes. And then one of my favorite characters that I don't think gets nearly enough attention. This is X-Men featuring Emma Frost.
I think that one's gorgeous.
So part of the reason that I like these two, not just because it's a different portrayal of them, but because I think one of the things that draws me to a lot of the characters that I like, and those books and those covers in particular, is I like strong female characters. Talked about it before. Obviously, I'm married to a very beautiful woman, but she also is a very strong woman, a lot of inner strength, a lot of stuff that if you get the chance to meet her and know her, you'll see when you talk to her. The idea being, though, that sometimes we have this stereotypical image that society puts on all of us, no matter your sex, your race, whatever. And for women, it tends to be like you have to fit a certain mold in order to be considered whatever, sexy, strong. If you're smart, you can't be sexy. If you're a scientist, you can't be a model. If you're a model, you can't have brains. We all know it. We all live with it. Hopefully, though, we're all teaching our daughters differently. And as men, we're all treating our wives, sisters, mothers, girlfriends, and strangers better. But the idea that I saw that and I was immediately drawn to is the fact that it's a different portrayal. It shows a different side, because all of us have multiple sides. We're multifaceted. We're not one-dimensional, if we're honest.
Yes, that's my husband. Yes. Sorry.
So that was it for our my pull list, and on to our stack now, apparently, with great fanfare.
This, if you may not have watched it, I did an interview with Dan from Ultimate Comics Raleigh, and he had actually discussed this book. This one, we saw an interview with, I think it was either the creator and the artist. Mm-hmm. It was one of those, I think it was the San Diego Comic-Con panel that they did on Men Among Ye. And they talk about the historical accuracies that they tried putting into this story, because this is based off of Anne Bonny, and I think it was 2 other characters that you see in Black Sails.
They're actually mentioned in Black Sails.
I'll remember their names eventually. I know one's Jack something.
We'll research that and it'll pop up in the video later.
Yeah. Because he knows I am terrible with names, like horrifically terrible. So anyways, when we did our buy 3, get 1 free, this was actually one that Scott was grabbing. Oh. And I was in full approval, so.
And then we have Batman and Catwoman, the continuation, right? This one, issue 4. Love that cover. You can see Batman background here, Catwoman, right?
So for this particular series, I have been reading it. It's very good. The only challenge that I have with it, so they do 2 different things. It's almost like the 12 days of Christmas, so each issue is a different day of Christmas. But what they do is they do flash backwards and flash forwards. So if you're not really well read and versed on Catwoman or Batman history, especially some of the recent series, you're going to get very, very lost. But once I get sort of a little more caught up on this one, I will let you know exactly which key issues you're going to need to be able to really appreciate the story.
I just love too that the character in the center is kind of like the homologation of both characters.
Yeah.
So, you know, Catwoman, Batman, and then check out the bat symbol, the whip in the hand, the claws. Yeah, that's good. That's you.
This is me.
That's us, but yeah.
Oh, it's Spawn! Okay, so this is obviously the Todd McFarlane cover, which is gorgeous. I mean, it's Spawn. You just... He's technically the one that got me into Spawn. It's all his fault. So, you know, like I said, it's just like comic books. It's not entirely my fault. But I have been trying to pre-order some of these because I'm really, really looking forward to the Spawn universe. So like everyone else, I'm trying to sort of catch up, except I obviously am not going to be able to read 316 issues before we start Spawn universe. I've started reading Spawn, but I'm still very early on. I may have to just jump in at like issue 300 and just jump forward. We'll see. But in preparation, we have started our Spawn. The fun stuff. Alright, hang on. Oh, there you go. So, obviously I have told you all that we are J. Scott Campbell fans. He is an amazing artist, so whenever we see his work, we're grabbing it. It's just like Ken Lashley covers. We're grabbing both of them. This was a cover that I ended up grabbing over at the Ultimate Comics live show. So this is the Spider-Gwen cover. Let me just zoom in a little bit on that. I think it's gorgeous. So hold on to that, because this is part of a set. And guess what's in here? I waited to open this until I got here, so I'm dying.
Socks.
Amazing.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be right back.
So while she's opening that, I wore my Bazinga shirt today. Any fans of the Big Bang Theory out there, you might recognize that. If you don't, something that, especially in the earlier seasons, I love, portrays a certain portion of our society, I think, very, very well. Meaning, you know, before nerds were cool, I guess. And also the fact that they're comic fans and they're Trekkies and they're, you know, cosplayer. I mean, there's a lot
Trekkers.
Excuse me. A lot of things in there that we can relate to as comic fans or so. One of the reasons, though, that I wore this specifically is in talking about the women's history covers that I showed you on my part of the pull list. One of my favorite episodes from Big Bang is the one where the guys are on their way to a convention. They run into a little trouble. Don't actually make it there, but they're all on their way to a Trek convention. And while they're gone, the girls get into a debate over comics. And they're actually reading them, and in a full-fledged argument when the guys return, still in Star Trek costume. And they hear them arguing outside in the hall, and they're like, what's going on? Did we like enter a space-time warp and like something's weird? And they decide that they're going to go investigate in true Star Trek fashion. And it's an awesome episode. I wore this in homage to that section of women in comics.
Well, and my favorite part is when the women read Thor for the very first time and they're like, oh, it's dumb. It's simple. Yeah. And then suddenly they start arguing over, well,
what if the Hulk is holding the hammer and Thor touches him?
Yes, I love that. Yes. Okay, so this is the remainder of the set. So this is Spider-Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she's gonna go top. And then we have Spider-Woman Alpha. And then we have Silk. So now I gotta figure out. I know the web is kind of along the outside, so I know this is the bottom left. She's top right. Yeah. Ta-da!
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Let's actually hold these up.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's actually really cool.
You've done this before.
Yeah. So, this one was one I was like, okay. Started with Spider-Gwen, and I had to have all four.
That's so cool.
I just had to figure out how on earth to display them. I don't know if I'll put them in a frame or something.
Yeah, and put them together.
Because I'm like, they're gorgeous.
They are.
Yeah. So, this was my worthy eBay grab.
Very much so, yes. Keep going. I'm going to be over here drooling over this for a little while.
Yeah. I've lost Scott. So, Kracken'S Hoard. I got a couple titles. Just a couple. So Kracken'S Hoard did a $3 sale a couple weeks ago. They were, one, it was St. Patrick's Day. And then secondly, they were raising money. There was a member of the Kracken'S Hoard group that had recently had a family member pass away. So they ended up making it partially a fundraiser to help raise money for the funeral, which I thought was incredibly sweet. This poor gentleman was at the point of having to start selling his comic book collection to be able to bury his family member. So we all came together, and yes, we got some amazing comics and we got some great deals, but then we were able to support another member of the community, which I thought was amazing, and I really appreciated that Nick and Palmer did that for them. So these two are issues that I had reached out to Nick and I was like, hey, I'm looking for this random miscellaneous pile of titles. I told you, my list of random issues that I'm looking for, they're all over the place. So they did have two of them already at the Kracken'S Hoard, which was great. So this is Neil Gaiman, Books of Magic, issue number 1. And then Sandman Overture, again, Neil Gaiman, issue number 2. And they also had, so this, I haven't shown you my J. Scott Campbell Black Cat series yet. But this is Spider-Man The Black Cat Strikes, and this is the complete set. So that's issue number 1, issue number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, you ready for your little insider tip on the Kracken'S Hoard? I had the lovely little post-it note that they would be reading typically during the live show. And you'll see every live show does this. So, Spider-Man, The Black Cat Returns was released March 2020 through September 2020. The writer is Dennis Hollum. The art is done by Luca Marquesa. Yeah. I told you, I'm terrible with names. Spider-Man finds himself in the middle of a gang war, and if that wasn't bad enough, Black Cat unexpectedly reappears. I really like Black Cat in general as a character, so this was one that I've been eyeing the series, and they had it complete set. I was in. On to my $3 titles. With the exception, I think, 2, but you can figure it out. So, Dexter Down Under. I grabbed this because Scott and I started getting into Dexter. We're back on season 1. I know, we've got a lot of catching up to do. But I was intrigued in general just by the fact that Dexter had a comic book and it was based in Australia. I'm like, for $3, I'm in. Web of Venom Carnage Born. 1 is a cool title, and I get my little blurb on the back. Basically, reanimated Cletus Cassidy bonds with carnageized Grendel symbiote. Basically, I grabbed this because I am slowly collecting Carnage covers. I really like the character, and of course we have the Carnage movie coming out. So any of these Carnages that I can grab in advance before the movie makes the name kind of blow up like Venom has, I wanted to do it. So we have Deadpool the Gauntlet, and this is issue number 1. And it says, how do you like your steak, Fang Boy? And it says, medium rare or in your stinking heart. I love Deadpool. And this is the second printing of Deadpool #1. And this is where Deadpool is basically making fun of the fact that there's a second printing. And he says, hey Scotty, tell Nick and Scott we're complete sellouts and getting a second printing. I love Deadpool. This is classic Deadpool. This is a $34.99 issue of Deadpool that I got for $3 whole. Like, I'll take that. Haven't read it yet. It's volume 11. Who cares? I'm like, it's Deadpool. It was the right price. I'm in. Now, there are 2 issues of Spawn in here. I think one of them I got for $10, so I'll figure it out which one it is, but who cares? It's Spawn. So this is Spawn issue number 5. Issue number 6. Alright, I'm just going to keep holding these up because they're just really cool covers, and I'll tell you basically why I'm into Spawn. So Scott had originally been into the animated TV series, and he kept trying to get me to watch the animated show, and I watched the first one and I couldn't get into it. And then I watched the second one, and I think we tried rewatching it. I don't know. There was something about it that I just couldn't get behind. So finally I'm like, you know what, let me just read the comic book. Read the comic book and everything changed. So this is the last one. For me, Spawn, what I was missing was almost like the personal interest side of it. I wanted to know more about Spawn himself. I wanted to know about, you know, his wife, the daughter that she has. I wanted to know about the life that he was trying to get back to before he just goes off and does some really amazing things. And then you get the Violator in there, and I wanted more to then understand why I felt something for the character. And with the book, the comic book itself, I felt like I got all of that background. And then I started getting into the Violator, who is, I mean, disgusting and evil and intriguing. I'm like, the Violator.
Hilarious.
Yes, and hilarious. So it's almost like you sort of get the progression and the complexity of the character instead of just seeing how extreme he is. So that I really, really liked, which is also now why I'm trying to slowly, very slowly get a Spawn run. So I was able to get, let's say, a huge chunk of Spawn thanks to the Kracken'S Hoard. Like I said, they weren't all $3, but who cares? They were amazing price, and I was very, very happy to get them. And that was the end.
For this week.
For this week. I will say, comparatively, like I said, this is a larger conglomeration than we normally get. Some weeks are obviously bigger than others, some are not. But now I just have to read it all. Oh darn. So tell us down in the comments, which series are you getting into and collecting? Are you getting into Spawn in preparation for Spawn Universe as well? And was there something different that you grabbed at your LCS this week in your pull box that we didn't? Let us know, and we will be seeing you again next week on our next issue of Married with Comics. And I hope you all have a great day.